Today, and most of all, thank you for recognizing all the elected officials who are here today so that I do not have to. Although I did see Representative Donovan just walk in, so I want to make sure that we catch her too. I'm optimistic about 2018. I think this is going to be a good year for us. I'll take a minute and talk about some of the things that we've worked on in our office, but I'll just say, generally speaking, I've got a very good feeling about this year. And I love the fact that when it comes to ECRI, we've got not just an organization, but really a coalition of organizations working together in a collaborative way to help Rhode Island continue to be the national leader on the environment and sustainability for states. Rhode Island, you know, this is who we are. This is part of our heritage. This is part of our identity as a state, as the ocean state. We tend to be a state where there is broad bipartisan support on most environmental principles. That's not the case when you go elsewhere in the country. You see it whenever there's an environmental bond, an open space bond, or a green bond that goes on the ballot, and it always gets 70%, 80%, 100% support. And it's because we know as Rhode Islanders that this is something that is essential to who we are. So I want to thank Kat and all the board members of ECRI for continuing this fight, continuing this effort, because as much as we have done, we know that we always can do better. I also want to recognize Leader Joe Shikarchi, who just walked in, who is a great friend and a great environmental leader as well. One of the first things that I worked on when I took office in 2015 was the legislation that created a number of new green finance programs at the Rhode Island Infrastructure Bank. Worked with Mackie McCleary on that and a number of others in the General Assembly as well. And we are now 3 years in, and I'm proud to report that the results have been very good. We have made Rhode Island a real leader in green finance. And we launched a number of new programs. I won't go into all of them. One is called the Efficient Buildings Fund. This is a program to help cities and towns do retrofits to public buildings. We have a lot of creaky old buildings in Rhode Island, historic buildings, but old, whether it's town halls, fire stations, public works buildings. And since that program launched, we have helped a number of cities and towns all across Rhode Island do retrofits to their public buildings. We have saved those cities and towns over $20 million on their energy bills. We have put about 300 people to work in the process and reduced our state's carbon footprint. We also launched a program at the Infrastructure Bank called the CPACE program. And I have to say, one of the early leaders in Rhode Island when it comes to PACE programs was Representative Chairman Handy, who put in one of the original PACE bills years ago. It's been a long process to get PACE up and running in Rhode Island. It is now. It's very similar to what I talked about with the Efficient Buildings Fund and retrofitting public buildings, except this is for private buildings. This is to help companies, small businesses, do energy retrofits and rooftop solar, get low-cost loans so that they can make these investments in greening their facilities. That program, at long last, is now up and running. I was at the launch with Senator DePalma in Middletown, where the very first PACE loan was made. That was a financial services company in Middletown. We've since closed PACE loans at a manufacturing company in Westerly, at a country club in South Kingstown, at a dry cleaners in Warwick, and we've got about 100 loans in the pipeline now in the CPACE program that are working their way through. Another reason that 2018 is going to be a very good year. So this is an example of tangible things that we've been able to do, working together, making Rhode Island a real leader. We have made Rhode Island an example that other states are following when it comes to green finance. So whether it's the CPACE program or the Efficient Buildings Fund, other programs that we've launched at the Infrastructure Bank, other states are starting to take notice and do a lot of the same things. And we're looking at expanding them here in Rhode Island. The Infrastructure Bank is now embarking on a very interesting project in Providence on lead pipe remediation. It's at the pilot stage now, but I'm very optimistic that this is something that is going to grow and benefit a lot of people, particularly in lower income segments of our population who have real issues with lead pipes. That's something that I think is going to continue to grow over time. We're also looking forward to the Infrastructure Bank being more active in climate resiliency and helping Rhode Island prepare for the infrastructure challenges related to sea level rise and extreme weather. So good news on that front there. I'm very proud to have worked on that with many people in this room, and I think there are more good things to come. Aside from that, we've been active in a number of other areas. I'm optimistic that we're going to see another green bond in Rhode Island this year, and I'm hopeful that that is something that will make its way through the legislature and to the voters. I will be there in full support because we need to continue making these investments in Rhode Island, in open space, in resiliency, and in green infrastructure. So hopefully good things to come in 2018, continuing to grow the Infrastructure Bank, Green Bond, and I look forward to hearing from all of you in ECRI and in the environmental community more broadly about what your priorities are and how we can continue to work together. So it is things like this that make me very proud to be from Rhode Island. I think you all know I've lived in Rhode Island almost my entire life. I had a brief intermission for a few years where I lived in Louisiana. And while that is a wonderful place too, I will just say the environmental consciousness down there, even with everything that has happened, I mean, even with the terrible, I mean, I was down there right in between Katrina and Deepwater Horizon, and even with all of that, there isn't nearly the same kind of broad understanding among the population that we need to get serious about protecting our natural environment and doing what we can to combat climate change. So I feel very lucky to be from Rhode Island, where people get it, where we continue to be a leader, and with your work and with your help, we will continue to have Rhode Island be the example setter nationally. So thank you very much, everybody, for all